Hey, what's going on everybody? If you are interested in Brazilian cuisine, or if you're going to a Brazilian restaurant, or even better, if you're planning to visit Brazil, in this video I'm going to teach you how to pronounce some of the most popular foods in Brazil. Obviously, Brazilians don't expect foreigners to say these words just like a native speaker of Portuguese, but just the effort of you trying to pronounce these words will be much appreciated. So, without further ado, let's go! And the first food I'm going to talk about is actually a street food, very popular in Brazil. You can find it pretty much anywhere, and it's the coxinha. And coxinha is as popular in Brazil as hamburger is in the US and fish and chips in the UK. So what is coxinha? If you never saw this or never tried it, coxinha is basically a wheat flour dough with chicken filling, and it has this characteristic shape and is very similar to the Italian arancini. If you have the chance, you really got to try this one, it's really delicious. So the name is coxinha. The X here sounds more like a SH in English, so coxinha. And the last syllable, this sound nha, is the same sound as you can find in the word lasagna, so should be pretty simple. Again, coxinha. The second food is not just a food, it's actually a celebration, and it is churrasco. So churrasco can be translated to barbecue. It's very similar to the barbecues that people have around the world, but the Brazilian barbecue includes also different cuts of beef, pork, chicken, salad, sausages, cheese, farofa, which is something I'm going to talk about in this video too. Brazilians can have churrascos or barbecues for birthday parties, to celebrate a personal achievement, for example, or just because it's the weekend. And the most popular beef cut that Brazilians have in the churrascos is picanha. If you go, for example, to a Brazilian restaurant, you probably will see this name. So if you ever have the chance to go to a Brazilian churrasco, don't miss it. You will not regret. So the two words here are churrasco. You have this SH sound again in the beginning, and you have this ha sound very strong in the middle of the word, and the end is just O, but in Portuguese the O is a bit shorter, so churrasco, and the other word is picanha. So the syllable CA here, which will be K, it mixes with the next syllable, making the sound K and then nha, so picanha. Now comes the most famous Brazilian dish, which is feijoada. It is basically a black bean stew with pork and beef, and feijoada is always accompanied by rice, cabbage and farofa. So it's pronounced feijoada, feijoada. And as you noticed, J has a different sound in the Portuguese language, so feijoada. Feijoada is a typical Brazilian dish, but it's not something that you have in a daily basis. In this case, the most popular dish in Brazil doesn't have a proper name, but it's basically rice, beans, beef, salad and fries. And again, farofa. And as I mentioned farofa already 3 times here, I'm going to explain you guys what it is. Farofa is basically toasted cassava flour. It can also be corn flour with oil and spices and different seasoning. But in some cases it can also have roasted bacon, eggs or different meat. And it goes very well with feijoada, churrasco or any other dish that has beans on it. Or pretty much anything that you want. It's delicious. The pronunciation here is quite simple. It's just farofa. Farofa. Obviously we have here the R sound, which is very characteristic of the languages that come from Latin, and it's not a problem if you cannot pronounce the R this way, everyone will still understand you. Also from cassava we have tapioca. And for those who don't know cassava that well, it is actually the root of a plant native to the South America. And from that root you can extract flour or tapioca, or you can cut it in wedges and fry it. It's very, very good. Now back to tapioca. It's an ingredient that is used in many Brazilian dishes, and the most popular is this kind of wrap that can have different fillings, including cheese or pretty much everything that you want, even chocolate. So the pronunciation here is tapioca. Tapioca. Here we have this O sound, which is a bit more open, making this O sound, tapioca. Another typical food from Brazil is bobó de camarão. I know the name is a bit complicated, but I will explain that. Camarão means shrimp, which obviously is something that bobó de camarão is made of. And it also includes coconut milk, palm oil, ginger, and cassava flour. And again, it's usually served with rice. Brazilians love rice. So now to the pronunciation. Here we have 3 words. The first is bobó. Here we have 2 different sounds for the letter O. The first is bo and the second is bo. Is this open O sound. The second word is de, and this word can vary in the pronunciation depending on where you come from in Brazil, depending on the different accents, so it can be a bit shorter. And the last word is camarão, and here we have this sound which is very particular to the Portuguese language. And one way to explain this sound is it's composed of two basic sounds. The first would be a nasal sound, and the second sound is O. And when you connect both sounds and speak it quickly, it should sound something like The mouth should open this way, and yeah, it's a bit complicated, I understand that. And again, obviously you don't have to pronounce this sound perfectly, but if you want to, just have a little practice and you should be able to do that. Camarão. The next is a street food very popular in the state of Bahia, and Bahia is a huge state with plenty of touristic attractions, with several beaches, great food, a beautiful nature, and this food is acarajé. Acarajé is actually an African Brazilian food because in Africa they also have a very similar food, and for example in countries like Nigeria they have that for breakfast. And it's basically a dumpling made of beans dough, onion and salt, and it's fried again in the palm oil, and usually you eat that very spicy. So the pronunciation here is acarajé, acarajé. Another very popular snack in Brazil that goes so well with coffee is pão de queijo. It translates to cheese bread. It is made of sour flour, eggs, cheese, oil and salt, and it has a very soft and elastic consistency. It's one of those foods that it's impossible to eat just one. So here we have again this sound in pão. So pão de queijo, pão de queijo. And now to finish off the savory foods, we have another street food which is very popular, and it's the pastel. It is made of a flour-based dough, has this envelope shape and can have different fillings. The most common are beef, cheese, heart of palm, chicken and many more. So again, the name is pastel, and it's important to mention that in Brazilian Portuguese, the L at the end of the words has this very short sound. It doesn't sound like an L. It's different from the Portuguese spoken in Portugal. So it's pastel. Now talking about drinks, let's start with the most famous Brazilian cocktail, which is caipirinha. Caipirinha is made of cachaça, lime, sugar and ice cubes. And cachaça is a sugarcane spirit that can be consumed straight if you dare. Caipirinha is especially good in hot weather, but it's also found in many countries, even here in Europe. And there's also a version of caipirinha made with vodka instead of cachaça, and it has a funny name of caipirosca, just to sound a bit more Russian, I don't know. So the pronunciations here are caipirinha, caipirinha, again this ñ sound, and cachaça. Again, the CH here sounding more like an SH in English. And the last syllable has this C with a little leg thing underneath, and it's pronounced like a double S. So cachaça, caipirinha and cachaça. Now a drink that has no alcohol, and it's guaraná. Guaraná is a soda made of guaraná, that is a fruit from the Amazon region. And the fruit supposedly is a natural energizer, but not the drink. In Brazil, Guaraná is so popular that it's the main competitor to Coca-Cola. I prefer Guaraná myself. Seriously, if you guys have a chance, give it a go. The pronunciation is Guaraná. Guaraná. To finish the video, let's talk about two very popular desserts in Brazil, and the first is brigadeiro, and it's made of condensed milk, chocolate powder and butter. Brigadeiro is a must-have in Brazilian birthday parties, not only for kids but also for adults. So the name is brigadeiro. Brigadeiro. And the last sweet is paçoca. The name paçoca comes from a word from the language Tupi, that is one of the indigenous peoples of Brazil, and it means to crush basically. And that makes a lot of sense because basically paçoca is peanuts, cassava flour and sugar, all crushed and compressed. And when you bite it, it crumbles, but it's delicious. All the foreigners that try it, they say it's one of the best sweets in Brazil. So the name is paçoca. Again, this C thing, and we say like two S's, double S, so paçoca. And that's it for today's video. I really hope you guys enjoyed. Leave a comment below to let me know if you guys have ever tried one of these foods that I mentioned here in this video. Also, I would like to know if you tried to pronounce one of these names, if you found it hard or not. Give it a thumbs up, and I see you in the next video.